This is a program about China, so why are we beginning in Rolla, Missouri, showing you a bunch of middle-aged blue-collar workers wandering around a job fair?
Do you have any office positions open? No.
Because China is where their jobs went. China, which relates how exactly to Mexican migrant workers picking cotton in North Carolina? Well, that's where the cotton is going. China. We've been working for months in southwestern China, near where the earthquake struck. Our base was the biggest city that most Americans have never heard of, Chongqing. That's where it is on the map, along the Yangtze River, about 1,500 miles southwest of Shanghai. It's a city with an attitude, a place that has something to prove. And once we've shown you a few of the things that are happening in Chongqing, you'll begin to understand why China and the United States might have a very difficult time getting along without each other anymore. The signs of interdependence are everywhere. The city is blossoming with the icons of American brands like Ford, Ethan Allen, and Walmart. And that's merely scratching the surface. Love it or hate it, our economic futures seem irrevocably linked. It's a reality. Get used to it. Let me set the scene for you. A downtown square in Chongqing ringed with upscale shops, most of them selling products that would be completely out of reach, unthinkably expensive for most Chinese. And yet, there is a new and rapidly growing class of Chinese who can and do shop here, people for whom price is no object. Hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of such people. A huge, new and expanding market for high-end Western goods. The goal over the next 10 to 15 years is to expand the city out and draw the people in, until Chongqing is a megacity of 20 million, with only 10 million or so people left in the remaining countryside. But the larger goal is to turn Chongqing into an industrial hub, an international center of industry and trade. The city has already attracted significant American investment, like this Briggs & Stratton plant, where Chinese workers are now on the assembly line building American engines.
It's turned my life upside down. Gotta look for a new career.
Those engines used to be built here, at this shuttered Briggs & Stratton plant in Rolla, Missouri.
I hate the fact that it cost me my job, but, you know, businesses are out to make money.
We have a couple of openings on the...
And while the move was good for the corporate bottom line, it badly hurt some of the workers, especially the older ones who thought they'd retire at Briggs. Now, like awkward teenagers at a prom, they find themselves shuffling through a job fair.
It's going to be hard for me to get a job because I'm 61 years old. So far, every place I've applied for says I'm overqualified. You know, fly away saying you're too old.
I'm Pam Leeser. I'm a dislocated worker from Briggs & Stratton.
Pam Leeser had been working at Briggs & Stratton for almost 11 years. She's clearly uncomfortable shopping for a new job. She never thought she'd have to. Until the day a delegation from Chongqing, China, came calling.
They had a translator with them. And my boss come up and he asked me if I would care to explain to them what my job was and how I did my job. And I looked at him and I told him, no, I will not. I just knew that down the road I was going to be losing my job.
Which is exactly what did happen to about 480 Briggs & Stratton workers on September 28, 2007.
Jim, I don't know if you were kidding me before or exaggerating, but you were talking at one point about being the most hated guy at the home plant in Missouri. True?
I think most hated was a bit of an exaggeration.
Jim Marceau runs Briggs & Stratton's operation in Chongqing, China.
A lot of people were concerned with us building a factory in China that it would take jobs from the United States. This plant was built so we could try to make engines inexpensively enough where we could sell in the Asia market. It wasn't made to take jobs from the States.
Which is true. That was the plan. But the engines remained too expensive for China and for the rest of the Asian market. So now you've got Chinese workers assembling the engines in Chongqing, and even with the additional cost of shipping them halfway around the world, there's still a bargain in Europe and the US, where they're powering lawnmowers, snowblowers, and generators. What's involved is just a fraction of the overall Briggs & Stratton operation, but Chongqing's gain was Rolla, Missouri's loss.
Well, after our last engine was built, everybody was gone. I mean, people wanted to get out of there. But I was one of them, stayed till 3 o'clock. I thought, they're paying me for my whole 8 hours.
The labor is 5% of what it costs in the States, or 10% or 20%. That's where you save your money.
Well, I thought I was really stable at Briggs & Stratton. I thought I'd stay there the rest of my life and retire there. Well, now I'm 50 and I have to start all over again looking for another job.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
This is the fabric room of one of America's biggest and best-known furniture manufacturers. But if you look closely, you'll see that even Ethan Allen in Maiden, North Carolina, has integrated Chinese-made components into its supply chain. Thousands of rolls of fabric awaiting the day when they will be turned into custom-made upholstery. Made in China. Made in China. Made in China. Very possibly, though, spun out of cotton from here in North Carolina.
All of our textile mills have moved overseas, either to South America or China.
Linwood Vick is the foreman on his father's farm.
There are very few mills left in North Carolina, so all of our cotton is now being exported.
The cotton and the tobacco grown on this farm are being exported, and the labor force is being imported. Legal migrant workers from Mexico.
We use migrant workers from Mexico because they are a reliable workforce. They do an excellent job. Our local labor in North Carolina does not want to work the hours or do the hard work. It's extremely hard work.
That's your basic engine of today's global economy. Cheap labor. Either it migrates to where the work is, or the work migrates to where there is an abundant supply of cheap labor. What they are assembling at this Ethan Allen furniture plant is what the company calls the Pratt sofa. It's a pretty expensive piece of furniture, costs a couple of $1,000s, and the base, this part with the hand-turned legs, is also made in China. Anna Rocket, who's 23, does quality control.
I'm an inspector here at Ethan Allen. Basically what I do is I clip strings, make sure the piece of furniture looks perfect, does it have any holes in it, does it have any mishaps in it before we send it out the door.
Anna earns about $20 an hour, which is roughly what 17-year-old Mu Wen-jing earns in a week, doing essentially the same job, quality control, on these boom boxes which are bound for the United States. Walmart, to be precise. What confuses Mu Wen-jing is that Americans get to buy cheap imports while she can't afford anything made outside of China.
That's what she felt the most unfair thing. It's very expensive here, but why in America it's so cheap?
Because here in China, people work for very low pay.
Do you guys get high pay?
Yeah, we get high pay. Yeah.
How much?
Too much. Maybe you should be a television reporter. What do you think?
Do you think yes?
Yeah.
Yes, because she said staying in this factory is a waste of her talent, actually.
A waste of her talent. I like that.
Which is pretty much the way Anna Rocket back at the Ethan Allen plant in North Carolina sees things too.
It's just a bunch of different things that you have to look for. It's kind of almost a very tedious job at times.
But here's the kicker. The Pratt sofa that Randy Smith is working on here, that's headed to China, Chongqing to be precise. China's growing middle class has got plenty of money, and they appreciate good American workmanship.
I think it's wonderful. As long as we manufacture the furniture here, we can sell it to anybody we want to. That's fine. I have no problem with it.
The balance of trade, though, between China and the United States remains totally out of whack. Americans buy vastly more from China than the other way around. Mu Wenjing's boss, the man who manages this plant assembling tens of thousands of DVD players and boomboxes, was born in Taiwan and worked for 15 years in Orange County, California. Matt Shaw's biggest outlet is Walmart.
Why would Walmart come all the way to China to buy these things here?
Because what I can tell you right now is today, this type of DVD player we provided to Walmart, we have the lowest cost in the world.
The lowest cost?
Yes. I think that's the whole purpose.
So the lowest costs means you're paying the lowest salaries in the world.
It means we have a lowest salaries. It means we have a higher efficiency.
And few American firms understand those efficiencies quite as well as Apple. The company boosts its bottom line with the huge savings that come with the label "Assembled in China." But it's the company's design prowess and marketing savvy that motivates their consumers. That's why, for example, every iPod box carries the words "Designed by Apple in California." When you buy an iPod for $299, Apple makes a profit of $80. The Taiwanese company that assembles the parts in mainland China earns about $4. Moving manufacturing to China also benefits Briggs & Stratton. The company's doing just fine with its plant in Chongqing. Of course, that's no comfort to Pam Leeser, whose job was outsourced to China.
We're going to wind up having no jobs. There's not going to be nothing here in the United States. It's all going to be overseas.
Okay, nice to meet you.
I'm just hoping that the government wakes up and starts seeing what it's doing to United States citizens.
Here again, Mei Wei-chen of Ford, China.
Are we going to see a day when Fords being built in China are being driven in the United States?
Our main focus and the long-term strategy is focusing on this wonderfully and high-growth market, China. That's our first priority.
I heard that.
And then,
I got that.
if we can satisfy the demand of the Chinese consumer, then obviously we will consider export those vehicles to those markets that has the demand for the vehicle that we built here in China.
You must know what your long-range plans are. And those long-range plans, at some point or another, include selling cars that are produced here in China overseas.
As I said, when we have the capacity and the cost advantage, we will consider opportunity to expand our marketplace in markets that may want to have these products.
The world we're looking at right now really is, I mean, as far as the business community is concerned, it's got nothing to do with national loyalty anymore. It's just an international business. Wherever you can do business. I mean, do you even consider that you're working for an American company?
I'm working for a global company because Ford Motor Company has a presence in many, many countries across the globe. So we are there looking at the market opportunity, the demand of the consumer.
You know, in the old days, the line used to be the old General Motors line. You know, what's good for General Motors is good for the USA. That world is gone.
The only thing I can say is that in many ways, Ford Motor Company is a global company and we need to be competitive on a global basis. And we are.
The name of the game is capitalism. Who would have thought that China, of all countries, would be so good at it?